We're live, dog.
Hello, this is Matt Bergman, and you are listening to the Punk Rock Libertarians Podcast, episode 130.
Oh, yeah.
I'm here tonight with Jared Schneiderman.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Fucking Kyle Wagner.
Hello.
Philip Dassing.
What's going on, guys?
And we'd like to welcome back fucking Timothy Davis.
Yo.
Tim Davis. What's up,
Oh,
dog?
shit, dude.
What's going on?
Dude, all the way from Philadelphia, dude.
Jersey, really, but
Jersey.
whatever.
Okay.
Same difference.
Cool. So, man, I guess, to top it off tonight, I think we agreed that, Hugh Hefner died this week. That was
We agreed on that?
Yeah, we agreed. I think, there's some people that think that, it could be a government conspiracy or something. This whole thing could just be a false flag. But I think everybody here has agreed that he's probably dead. And he's probably not in a better place because,
Why?
like, could he be in a better place than he was when he was on this earth? Yeah.
That's a good call.
I mean, at least that's what it sounds like. I don't know.
All right. Kyle, I think you had some strong thoughts about Mr. Hefner.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, is he a hero? Is he a villain? How do people think about him and what he did with his life, how he lived his life, how he treated women? He's a very polarizing guy, and people, it's been very controversial, and I've just been asking for people's opinions on what they thought about him. I think as a capitalist, you have to appreciate what he did. He was a pioneer in the porn industry, and his magazine paved the way for porn as we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
But Playboy was a lot of people's first exposure to pornography, and he obviously created a multi-million-dollar business and enriched a lot of young women. Made them famous. So, like, a lot of girls are very appreciative for what he did for their lives. I mean, they were happy. They were happy to be in Playboy. They were just, to them it was a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
He does have mixed reviews, though. Like, Holly, one of his closest girls, she wrote a book just throwing him under the bus and saying she hated living in the Playboy mansion and having sex with him was awful and all this other stuff, and she's feuding with another one.
But wait, did he kidnap her and force her to stay at the Playboy mansion?
No.
Okay.
I mean, admittedly, I always thought
Did he give her a shitload of money?
Well, I think what I truthfully think is that she didn't get the ring that she wanted.
Yeah.
She didn't win the sweepstakes, and so she was bitter about that, and
Sure.
that's why she went and threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
The other girl,
Books
it
make
was
you a
Bridget,
lot of money.
and then what was the other?
That
Kendra.
too.
Kendra and Holly fight, or they're in like a Twitter war or whatever over Hef, and they don't get along because they have a disagreement over Hefner. But I just think it's interesting. Some leftists say, he objectified women and he was, basically a predator, and he brainwashed these girls and all this stuff. He exploited women, and he's been very polarizing, and I've been fascinated reading all the articles about him. So how do you guys feel about Hugh Hefner?
I haven't read up too much in his life. I feel like at some point I read some stuff about the Playboy Mansion not being the nicest place for some of the women that were there.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we have a lot of people that we really appreciate certain aspects of their life, and other aspects of their life are kind of icky and kind of bad. So he did a lot for free speech. I believe he even integrated a lot of nightclubs in the South. I believe in Miami he had one where he integrated, I believe, and so he did a lot of good things. But you hear a lot of other things about him that kind of make you people talk about a lot of the progressives I'm friends with, and a lot of the Christians who I'm friends with also, like online, and people I talk to, they kind of seem to be on the same side of this, saying we shouldn't celebrate his life. He was an evil guy, and they always point to we don't behind closed doors he treated women terribly. So you kind of it's kind of like the same with anyone, like philosophers and celebrities.
My bubble must be way different because all I see is like praise for the guy right now. I didn't see anybody saying at all that you know, he was a horrible guy for what he did or anything like that. But it's probably just the bubble I hang out with.
You know who else? You know who else can't stand him is social conservatives. They say that's degeneracy, right? Looking even to the point of saying they'll say pornography or viewing pornography itself is degeneracy, and they're against that. So. They think that he contributed to the degradation of society, the downfall of society, and I don't know if they want to live in a world where, you know, people dress up in suits to get on airplanes and everything's real formal and stiff, and it's missionary sex only, and you know, it's sort of to me sounds like a no fun world.
Kyle, Kyle, what are your favorite positions? Dude,
I'm not
everybody
gonna
wants
say,
to know, dude.
I'm not gonna say,
dude. Our tens of listeners, dude, are all wondering.
Half are in the room.
Yeah,
Kyle, what's your favorite position?
it's called the eagle.
The flying eagle.
It's just the eagle.
The eagle?
Yeah.
Okay, describe this for us, dude. I'm not familiar.
All right, it's like missionary, but you put your arms underneath the girl's knees and push them back.
Oh, Jesus, that's hardcore, man.
Dude,
Hey,
Kyle,
you
fucking monster,
Dude,
dude.
what are you?
I
What kind
mean,
of deranged sicko are you?
you asked.
Anyways, dude, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, so
Did you ever see the
let's get
David
the
Blaine?
audio from it?
Yeah. All right. Shit. Yeah, Hugh Hefner. I mean,
Everybody's still thinking
I saw
about
this.
that.
I saw this really cool video. Just gotta get this fucking picture out of my mind now. I saw this cool video of an interview he did with, I think it was William F. Buckley or William H. Buckley, one of.
Well, F. Buckley was the conservative neocon guy.
Yeah.
Who was the guy with like the talk show?
Yeah, that was him.
That was him.
Yeah, he.
So yeah, he had like an interview with him, and he got pretty philosophical. I mean, he was talking about like sort of like women's lib, like kind of like how the sexual revolution, because I mean they started in like what, it was like the 60s, right? And that was.
I thought it was like the 50s.
Yeah, maybe it was the 50s.
Yeah, I could be wrong,
but yeah, you know, and you know, it was empowering to a lot of people, and it was sort of like he was talking about, excuse me, he was talking about how it was sort of contradicting, or he was sort of going against the like sexual codes of, you know, mainly like religious sexual codes, or just like the sort of puritanical ones that kind of existed at the time, and he was trying to break those because he thought they were just stupid. You know, he's like, you know, we need codes in society, but there are codes that we have that are wrong, and they need to change. And I mean, he just sounded really smart. He didn't sound like a pervert. You know, he just sounded like, you know, he was a free thinker. But you know, obviously, when you've been doing that shit for like 50 years or whatever, and you become like a creepy old man,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes like, all right, like what's going on here?
Well, that was
like,
the crazy thing about him. I mean, he's like 85 years old and still.
Wasn't he 91?
91.
Kyle?
Yeah, through his 80s and 90s, he was still hooking up with or sleeping with 20-something, you know, women. And
He's still tapping that ass, dude. And I don't think he ever asked for a blowjob permit either, dude.
I don't think so.
Yeah, dude. Which brings us on to topic number 2. So, blowjob permits revisited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, dude, so what's the deal? So we were researching this before the podcast, right? And it seems to be, just as I predicted, as I cited before, that blowjobs are still illegal in Maryland.
Yeah, we didn't get a conclusive answer. We did find that a court of appeals had overturned that law. As far as I know, it's not enforced anywhere. I don't think most people are even aware of it. When we were doing our research just now, I also saw like it's illegal to have sex outside of marriage in Georgia, which is insane. But
yeah, but I just seem to remember you stating that like we should not break any law.
No, that wasn't what
I believe.
that wasn't what
Jared,
I said.
roll the footage, Jared.
I wasn't there, man.
Jared, roll the beautiful bean footage.
The controversy over the blowjob permit thing was you guys were saying if that was a rule or a law.
No, I said it was a law, dude. I claimed it all along,
Well,
and
no,
you
no,
haven't been
you-
able to debunk that, dude.
Okay, there's two different topics here.
Kyle,
Blowjob
call Governor
permits
Hogan.
or just oral sex being illegal. So blowjob permits don't exist. Like, that was a hypothetical that you guys gave me and said, what if
Now,
you
because
needed
can
a
do it to your
permit?
wife, though, so
to have a
technically the
blowjob.
marriage license would be the permit, right?
Well, I don't think you can do. I think sodomy is illegal. Period. I didn't know that married people were allowed to do it.
I think you can sodomize your wife.
Dude,
That's Tim Wayne.
you would just
I'm
have
just
to
saying.
show Kyle the law, dude.
It varies from state to state, I'm sure.
So, but but seriously though, I mean, like, weren't you saying that we should have some sort of like respect for the law? I mean,
Yeah, I do think it's
Or-
important to have respect for the law.
So like, when can you break the law? Like, when does it make? Like, because you're saying, in your opinion, like, if marijuana is illegal, you can't smoke marijuana, or you shouldn't smoke marijuana
Shouldn't.
because it's illegal. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the difference between like marijuana and a blowjob? Speak.
Answer to this.
Well, obviously, marijuana is a drug, and a blowjob is.
What the
is
fuck
a
does that
sex
mean, dude?
act.
It's a fucking.
Hey, you
pla-
asked
it's a
what
fucking,
the difference was.
It's a fucking
high off
plant,
both,
dude.
though.
Giving you the.
It's a plant, dude. Maybe
Well, I think he
marijuana
means
is
what
more
is the
natural.
difference in the context of whether you should
crime.
obey the law or not.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it's a
I
plant,
don't-
dude. How
you
is
know-
a plant not more natural than a blowjob?
Well, that
Hey,
yeah.
I do want to say, like, not all laws are created equal. There are some laws that are minor infractions. Running a stop sign.
Who's to
or,
decide, Kyle?
jaywalking or
Who's to-
something. It's not at the same scale as murder, homicide.
Okay,
So-
yes, but who's to decide?
It does come down to opinion, but the government does just they
Government's an
categorize
opinion with
they
a gun, though,
categorize
Kyle.
they categorize these different offenses as misdemeanors or felonies. So, I mean, for you to say, okay, I'm going to smoke a joint, that's going to have a lot smaller consequences socially than for you to run people over with your car. And the state's probably not going to even respond to you smoking a joint. They probably don't even know about it. But if you were to take your car and plow people over in the street, the police are definitely going to be there, within 5 minutes. So there's a different response because the laws are less severe. Or more severe, the one crime is more severe.
Well, who's to decide?
It's, it does come down to subjective opinion. But the authorities decide what they're going to enforce and how much resources they're going to dedicate to enforcement. And
Well, the authorities
and
are
the
just an
severity
opinion with
of
a
it.
gun, dude.
What's that?
The authorities are just an opinion with a gun. And
Yeah.
I would say, how would you decide, like, because, I would take the position that the only laws that are just would be a law that protects property rights.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more. Obviously, also protects life. Laws against murder, laws against rape. Laws against,
those would all fall under
um,
property rights, correct? You own your own body?
No, I would consider those laws against or protecting person. I wouldn't. I don't think
You don't
laws
think you own
protect-
your body?
You don't think that you own your own body?
I mean, it's kind of semantics, but it's kind of a weird thing to
No,
say
I mean-
that. And typically, when we talk about ownership,
No,
we're
I'm
talking
saying-
about inanimate objects or outside objects, not yourself. You are your body, or it's part of you.
I think it's important to say that we own our own body. Otherwise, you've got people
All
like
right.
fucking brainwashed into thinking that it's moral for government to tell you what you can and cannot put into your body.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it sounds weird to say that. And also, I want to say, like,
Why,
when
dude?
all right, hang on. Let me finish.
I mean,
Let me
dude,
finish.
what is a blowjob
When-
but you putting your cock into some like hot chick's body, dude? And
You have to be hot.
All right,
or dudes,
like,
or
when you
dude's
talk
body.
about your ownership of your body, there's all kinds of limits on what you're allowed to do with your body. You're not allowed to walk into different people's houses. You're not allowed to go different places.
Yeah, but
You're
that's-
violating
like,
other
yeah,
people's
How
property.
you
Yeah,
can
that
say
goes-
you own your body all you want, but there are tons of
Once again-
restrictions on what you're allowed to do with your body.
Yeah, just like there's restrictions on what you can do with your own property.
yeah.
Like if I own this, this glass, I can't throw this glass through your house
right,
window.
right. So you can
So
say,
like you can say
Stimulates
the
economy.
you can say the same thing about your body. Like yes, you own your body, but there are limits to what you can do
what you're allowed
as far
to do.
as they infringe on other people's rights.
Yeah, so as soon as you make that restriction and say, I'm going to restrict what you're allowed to do with your body and what your actions can be,
But that doesn't mean
you can't be an anarchist anymore. You can't tell people you're not allowed to rape, you're not allowed to murder. They don't have to listen to you if you're an anarchist. Like, you have no power over them.
I mean, you have the power of self-defense and defending
but
other
I mean,
people, and you can collect. You can
but
organize
but
and conduct
logically,
those
you're
things.
not an anarchist in that case, because now you're imposing.
Anarchist
you're
just
using,
means no governments and
Yeah,
no
there's no
initiation
rule.
of force. It has nothing to do with defending
No.
yourself. Yes,
Okay,
that's what it means.
Initiation of force is definitely allowed in anarchy. I mean, there's no
No,
rule.
it's not.
There's no rule against. Well, who says it's not? What authority says you can't
But that's
initiate
like
force?
saying there's no law if there's laws against it, but people do it anyway. So that saying you're not an anarchist because you don't own your body or whatever. Like that's like saying there's no law because somebody could do it anyway. Right?
I've always seen this as a contradiction in the anarchist position, where they're like, no initiation of force, and I have to be like, well, who's telling me that? What authority is telling me I'm not allowed to initiate force? Like, you're not in charge. You're not the boss of me, basically.
I think it's
So,
really kind of
if
common sense.
Well, it's a
dude.
moral
It's not
code.
common.
Yeah,
but nobody's going to follow that. Why would they follow that?
why would they follow anything?
No,
Like,
because
people
they don't
follow
wanna go
things
to-
because it works and it.
Well, they don't want to go to jail.
Well, if you walk into a room with
Okay,
people,
but why
we
do
threaten them.
people
Dude,
why do
Kyle
people
Wagner
allow
and his damn
democracy
rape
to live?
cages.
Why do people allow democracy to exist? Why do people allow anything? Because it works for enough people at the time until they realize that it doesn't work anymore.
So you're
And then
saying,
they overthrow that system and they move on to better things.
like,
And
seriously,
anarchy is the natural progression of realizing, like, oh, wait, we can do all these things that the government is currently doing without the government.
we really can't, though.
I mean, that's just speculation.
It's not. I mean, you have to realize, you have to take it to its logical
There's
conclusion.
nothing about government that gives it special power
Well,
that ordinary, because the government is just people. The government doesn't exist. The government is just a collection of people that the other people who are not in government have, for whatever reason, decided that they want to delegate the responsibility of
maybe like half of the people that are not.
well,
more than half.
apathy is consent, though, in this situation.
It's more than half.
I don't know. Is apathy really consent? I don't think apathy is consent. I think apathy is just apathy.
I mean, okay, fine. It's not consent, but it's a passive allowing of it to continue to occur. Like, it's not an endorsement, but it's a saying, well, maybe I don't like it, maybe I kind of like it, but I don't dislike it enough to do anything about it.
You're almost talking about agnostics, like political agnostics, that just have no opinion one way or the other, and you're just, I mean, they're not
Yeah.
overthrowing it, but they're not actively supporting it. They're just sort of there.
Or just people that are like, this is my life. I know about this politics thing that exists, but I'm not motivated enough to engage with it or
you've been convinced
talk
that
about it or do anything about
engaging in the political process. Of
Well, I don't
voting
necessarily mean-
and that people think that's actually doing something, but in fact, to me, that's probably making things worse.
it. Well, I don't necessarily mean engaging it. I just mean by not, like, even like participating in something like agorism is saying something about the political process. It's saying, like, we think it's bad. We don't want to engage in it, but we're not just like tacitly going along with it. We're we're countering it.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, to me, agorists are mostly drug dealing, and I just don't think
Dude,
that.
agorist could be like cutting somebody's grass and not
Yeah.
reporting the taxes to the state, dude. Did you ever do that, Kyle?
No.
Okay, so you reported the taxes when you cut people's grass, or you didn't cut people's grass?
Did you ever have a
I
lemonade
never
stand?
cut
Or-
people's grass.
Okay, so
Or getting blowjobs, when it's
Dude,
against the law.
I'll tell you what, Kyle. I cut many a lawn. I cut many a lawn in my day,
yeah,
and I never reported it to the state.
yeah. It's a small thing, a minor act of, I guess you could say. You could count that.
Would you put it like
count
higher
that.
than a blowjob, or of less importance than a blowjob?
Mowing lawns?
Yeah, mowing lawns, receiving cash, and not reporting that cash to the state.
Yeah.
That's agorism.
Okay, I'll give you that. For sure.
No, well, that's just what it is. So agorism is merely any black or gray market activity that exists with outside of the state. In other words, like, you're not paying taxes on it. You're not giving those fucking pirate shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, mowing lawns isn't explicitly illegal, like selling drugs. Probably
well-
not paying taxes on it. Probably
Yeah, but
Technically-
making an income and not reporting it is
Yes,
illegal.
it is,
right.
dude.
But the activity itself of mowing lawns
I
is
mean,
not
The
illegal.
idea is, okay, you can mow lawns for a
Kyle,
company
Government wants
and
its
that
piece.
wouldn't be agorism. It's not the action of mowing lawns. It's mowing lawns and then not reporting that income, doing
Yeah.
it outside of the purview
Whether you're-
of the state. That is all agorism.
Whether
I
you're
mean,
dealing drugs or whether
you
you're
could-
mowing grass, you're still the act is not reporting that to the government.
Yeah.
It's not entirely outside the purview of the state because everything in our lives is under law. So you're mowing someone's legal property.
Kyle,
But it's still against the law.
And the lawnmower is legally yours because you purchased it.
There's
So
kids in
the
my
state is
area
still sort of.
that got fined last year for not having a permit to shovel snow. Like,
Wow.
kids go door to door, whatever, try to make a little extra money, go into, like, communities with older people, and they were actually getting fined.
Yeah,
Told
that's-
them they
Government
can't do
wants
it.
its piece in everything. They
Yep.
want to be a part of every transaction, every breath, every movement, every conversation. They want to be a part of it.
yes, yeah. I think that's terrible. You
Yeah.
know, I think that's stupid.
Yeah. So therefore, the kids that are going out and shoveling that don't get the permits, they're practicing agorism.
yeah, and then if I recall,
they might not
correctly-
be like writing papers about it when they're done about how
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that like by definition, that's what agorism is. It's not that the entire obviously, it's impossible to do anything that doesn't have a little bit of the state in it in some sense. I mean, the state owns all the roads, so if you drive anywhere, yes, you can make the argument that it's not 100% outside of the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fine. What can we do about that? But we can do things that are more agoristic than other things.
Yeah.
Like in the example of mowing the lawn, if you get hired by a company that is a registered LLC and you're mowing lawns for them, that would not be considered agorism.
Yeah.
However,
And
if you're like you said, mowing your old neighbor's next door's lawn and they give you 10 Federal Reserve notes, and yes, Federal Reserve notes, you're within the realm of the government. So maybe they give you some Bitcoin, whatever. Then it's more agorist. Then you're extending your agorist quotient.
I'm not saying it's not agorist. All I said was I thought that the drug market is the bulk of agorist activity.
I mean,
I'm
the
not
lawnmower
I'm
kid
not
probably
arguing
bought
with you
drugs
guys
with his
that not
proceeds.
paying taxes.
Well,
doesn't
Kyle, I mean,
count.
if you're talking by sheer profit and money exchange, yeah, you're probably right.
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong. It was just.
I mean,
Sure,
I
speculating.
don't think
Maybe.
anyone's really keeping. It's hard to kind of track that.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to track. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, fine, I'll grant
Another
that,
reason
but
to
I don't think that's a
participate in
knock
agorism.
against agorism. I mean, it just so happens that the state is stupid enough to make drugs illegal, so therefore, people want drugs.
Yeah.
There's going to be a market.
Yeah,
It just so
creates
happens that it is underground and
it creates that
agorist.
black market.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Kyle, I mean, I believe it was just a couple weeks ago that you were saying that lemonade stands, you shouldn't open up a lemonade stand because it's illegal.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say, you should respect the law. You should respect the rule of law.
Okay, but
that doesn't mean that I think all of these laws are good laws. I
Okay,
think
but-
that's
but-
stupid. I don't think you should need a permit for a child's lemonade stand.
Yeah, but
I don't
but how-
agree
how-
with a lot of
here's the
laws.
thing,
I
dude.
just don't want to undermine the law
No, but
altogether. like
here's
you guys
the
do.
thing. Here's the thing. Here's where I feel like you don't make sense to me. Because you're saying that I shouldn't smoke pot because that's illegal. I should respect the marijuana law. You're saying the little kid who wants to open up a lemonade stand should not open up a lemonade stand because it's illegal without all the fucking permits because that's the law. And you said that the hot dog guy should follow the permits because that's the law.
Mm-hmm.
You said it's okay for the state to rob him because that's the law. But it's okay to disobey the blowjob law because Kyle Wagner likes blowjobs. And then, so what was the other law that wasn't there something else that you said it's okay to disobey? It's okay to cut lawns, and not report that money because I guess Kyle Wagner thinks that's okay. But I'm saying shouldn't you maybe develop a logical litmus as to which laws are moral and just? For instance, I've taken the litmus of no victim, no crime.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to smoke pot in the privacy of their own home, and I mean, who the fuck does that hurt?
Yeah, I think a lot of our laws are written with the intention of preventing injury. So DUI laws are a good example where there's technically no victim if you haven't actually run over somebody or hit somebody. But we have those laws in place with the safety in mind. So they're preventative in nature.
Yeah,
But you can make the argument that you're threatening the well-being of others, which is technically an initiation of force.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, if you follow that train, we say, well, it's for safety. If you follow that, keep going down that list as well. If you're pulling me over because I'm driving an unsafe, whatever I'm doing is unsafe, well, if I give you a ticket and you don't pay it, we come to your door, and if you resist in any way, shape, or form or defend yourself, we'll kill you. So tell me, is it about safety at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it is. They don't want you, when you're driving a car, there are rules to driving, and they don't want you to threaten others with your reckless driving. Well, so that's why we have speed limits, and we have DUI laws and that kind of thing.
Well, why do we have marijuana laws?
I think the history of it is pretty complex. I don't.
I think it's pretty racist. For
I
one.
have heard that. I've heard the racist angle that they said that they specifically were targeting African American communities.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know the history.
A number of times, I believe one of the explanations was if we don't make marijuana illegal, the black men are going to use it to seduce the white women.
Yeah.
I believe that was one of the early ways to scare people into it. And then
the reefer madness.
And then also, you got to bring up how the federal government made crack cocaine get stiffer privileges stiffer penalties than just regular cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Crack cocaine, the drug that was at the time of it was like a poor drug of choice. It was a black drug of choice. So. I believe now I think it's like 30% of black men have been through the justice system, and most of those men are, due to the drug war, and the drug war is also handled more strictly in poor neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, because I think they're banking on, those people are not going to have the legal funds to fight it, and those people will surely fill up the prison systems. And I think in the richer neighborhoods, the whiter neighborhoods, they wouldn't tolerate it as much if it happened there, and it might have already ended.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, for the record, I'm against the drug war and I'm against drug prohibition. So, you're kind of preaching to the choir on it.
Yeah, you made that clear.
My issue is, what's the proper response to it? Do you just ignore the law, practice agorism, or do you fight it legislatively and politically and try to get the law changed? And that's the route that I advocate. Yeah, which is make the case. Well, this is why this is
hold on.
destructive.
Let me just jump in here. So, but at the risk of breaking Moore's law or whatever, what do you do about what do you do in the Nazi situation where they make it illegal to be Jewish? Do you fight that in court, or is it okay for you to rebel?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
where's the line? Where's the line? And how do you determine where that line is?
That really pushes the question to the extreme, and to say, okay, do you practice agorism and ignore the law? You can almost distinguish fight the law violently, shoot the police who come to arrest the
that's
Jews.
That's different.
You could physically, and slavery is another good example where if they come, as the police and law enforcement come to do their job, you actually shoot at them and try to kill them.
Yeah.
So that would be an even bigger extreme than agorism. So there's agorism, there's rebellion, and then there's trying to politically change the law.
Okay, well,
but
Kyle,
hold on. But
no,
I didn't get it. I don't think I got an answer.
Yeah, but you're cutting me off. So it's dude,
you're cutting me off.
If fucking okay, so say slavery was legal, right? And you have a slave that broke free. And say you were personally against slavery. Let's pretend that you were.
Say I was an abolitionist.
Yeah, let's pretend you're an abolitionist.
Which I, would be.
Would you? I don't know if you would. Would you bring that slave into your home, and then protect that slave when the state came to return him to the person who claimed to be his master? Would you feel justified in killing a police officer? Or killing a person who's trying to kidnap another person to put him in the bondage of another person? Would you feel justified in killing that person? Because that was a law at a time.
Let me answer the question.
Yeah.
I think you have to be in that situation, and it's a personal decision because you're putting your life on the line at that point. If you're going to shoot at the officer who comes to apprehend that slave, you could get killed, or you could get arrested. You could spend the rest of your life in jail. So it's one of those things where you have to weigh the consequences. You have to think about.
But we're not talking about consequences. Are you
I'm not talking about consequences.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I understand the consequences, and you have to decide upon those consequences for yourself. But I'm saying, would you be morally justified in doing so? Do you believe?
But he's not a deontologist. He's a strict consequentialist, right?
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't mean that I don't think morals play a role. Like morals are still important, and
probably the ultimate role. Would you be justified in shooting that person of the law who's looking to apprehend that slave and to return him to his slave master?
That's a great question. And
I mean, it should be it's a pretty easy question.
It's not as easy as you think.
Would you,
it
yes
is.
or no? Would you be justified in killing somebody who's trying to kidnap another person for enslavement?
I don't think it's as simple a question as you think it is. I mean, you're taking a guy's life. He may have kids.
He chose to uphold unjust laws. How sorry can you feel
he
for
doesn't think they're
a fucking
unjust.
stormtrooper, dude?
He doesn't think they're unjust.
So you're a moral relativist.
I wouldn't say that. It's just I'm trying to explain to you that there are consequences to something like that.
Well, yes, there's consequences to everything, but
right.
that
you're gonna take away.
That has no
somebody's
bearing on morality, though.
All right. Well, you've killed a guy that's somebody's husband, that's somebody's father, somebody's brother. He's a breadwinner. He's trying to support his family. Like you've killed.
What about the slave? What about the slave?
The
slave might have been all those things too.
We don't know, but I mean, I'm just saying. Like before you say, okay, it's okay to shoot a cop.
Okay, what about a murderer? What about a dad of a family that decides to go on a killing spree? Are we not justified to kill this person? Like, are we not justified? Like, if I see some guy running down the street just gunning people down, and I happen to have a piece on me, am I not? Do I have to sit there and think about like, oh, you know what, this guy might have a family? Like, no.
I mean he's a threat, but it's
a threat.
It is different.
Or even after the fact, it's like
the question you guys are asking is when is it okay to shoot a cop? I mean, that's what this hypothetical is. It's a classic hypothetical. Well, and I'm trying to explain to you that it's going to have a lot of consequences. You shoot that guy, odds are his friend. Now you're a cop killer. You're going to be hunted. You're going to be a fugitive. At the end of the day, you're probably going to die over it.
But that's not the question. The question
all right,
you
can say it's morally justified all you want, but the consequences may end up being that you end up getting killed for it.
It's fine. That's fine. But we just want to know what is just and what is unjust. I mean, that's what I think libertarianism is.
Yeah.
Is a moral philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, there is libertarian economics and there's libertarian other things, but like ultimately I think the philosophy is a question of morality. So the question is it justified to perform X activity or is it unjustified? At least that's how I perceive the philosophy. That's ultimately the question comes, what is right and what is wrong?
Yeah, and that's why I said it's a deep question.
But I don't think the consequences of being moral have any bearing on that thing actually being moral. Like if you're doing something that is right, even if you get, crucified because of it, that doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, well, you got crucified, therefore it was wrong. No, it was still right. The consequences were unfortunate for you, but it doesn't have any bearing on the initial action.
Yeah, and that's where I'm looking at it going, what are the consequences? Is it right or wrong? And it just... Well,
yes, if you're in your mind, like, do I do this action? Okay, is it right or wrong? It's right, but if I do it, that's why we all don't go out and start killing cops because, yes, if I get pulled over, technically, theoretically, he's violating my right to be driving. So I am justified to not follow his command. However, I do weigh in the fact that I would like to continue to be a free man. And, but that doesn't make what he's doing right or what I'm doing wrong,
Exactly. Because
it's just being practical.
I can say something real quick. I feel like we're at the pinnacle of the deification of agents of the state. I mean, we look at these people as such a high pedestal, like FBI agents, police officers. But back in like Wild West days, you kind of look, even if you like, sheriffs were, they're people too, so there could be they're bad guys or good guys, and instead of looking at people, looking at
like that.
Stop distracting him, man.
Can you hear me? Am I good now? Am I good?
You're good.
Okay.
I thought you were doing a penis thing.
No,
dude, leave him alone.
You would think that, Jared.
I would.
So Matt,
mind out of the gutter.
If a cop came and tried to arrest you for smoking weed, would you feel morally justified in killing him?
I would believe it's morally justifiable, but I would rather take the weed charge rather than to face a murder rap or be on the run for my life. So I would weigh the consequences.
Oh.
But yeah, of course I would weigh the consequences. That's like saying like, are you a dumbass or not? You know, of course there are consequences. But at the same time, you know, it's like, duh. If somebody's coming after me trying to kidnap me, and I've done nothing to hurt anybody else, you know, I'm secure in my own property.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, of course, I would be morally justified in killing myself. Sadly, you've got the never-ending guns of the state.
So your actions would be driven by your consequentialism instead of your morality?
Well, but see, we're talking about...
Yeah,
no. Hold on. But you're
would.
confusing consequentialism with, like... Consequential... When I say consequential, I'm talking about consequentialist ethics.
Yeah.
Which is basically saying... We can do what, it's basically like almost an ends justifies the means thing, where it's like, it doesn't matter what the action is, as long as the end result is this thing, whether that be, maximized well-being for the most amount of people, or maximized wealth, or maximized blowjobs, whatever have you. That's how I understand what consequentialist ethics is. But just weighing consequences because you want to stay alive, that's not consequentialist ethics.
Okay.
I mean, do you disagree with that?
I mean, it was a lot to think about, to be honest.
Okay.
It's a big statement. I do want to read a real quick Mises quote for you guys. He... And
I mean, well,
it's real short. It's only one sentence.
I got to say though, like I'm also going to be quote unquote. I guess if you say it's consequentialist, I'm consequentialist about like fucking heroin, you know, because like I mean, like it's illegal, but I'm consequentialist. Like for the main reason, like I don't do it because of the consequences of it. Whether it's
to you personally,
not really for the prohibition, but just for the common sense consequences of it.
Yeah.
You know,
but see
the health consequences to you personally.
But hold on, before you launch that quote, let me just say one quick thing. What our goal is to bring society or bring government or whatever more in line with what is actually just, so that we don't have these conflicts, so that we're not sitting around like, well, yes, I'm morally justified in like not complying with this officer who's trying to stop me from smoking weed. Mm-hmm. However, I'm going to comply because I don't want to go to what we want to do is eliminate as many of those contradictions as possible. And I think for the most part, you do too on many things. Like you're against the drug war, you're against unnecessary wars. You'd probably be against like conscription, maybe.
Actually, no.
Okay.
I think with conscription, again, you have to look at it and say, if our country is facing annihilation, do we get wiped out or do we draft? So you have to weigh the costs and the benefits.
I mean,
I think it's horrible. I don't think for like most of our wars, I think we're a complete waste. Like the Vietnam War. Yeah. You know, here you're sending people over for a pointless war and drafting them. It's just horrible.
I mean, yeah.
But
like,
if we were actually under attack,
and
our communities were being threatened, and our government was being threatened,
at that point, you don't need to draft people.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, dude.
Do you think they voluntarily?
I mean, haven't you ever seen Independence Day, man?
Yeah, let's say there was an alien attack and Earth is facing destruction, and it's like we don't have enough forces, we're undermanned. Can we start drafting people to swell our ranks?
I don't think a government's rule would have any influence on that. I mean, if you see shit coming down from the sky, a threat of annihilation,
either way, though, the
anyone
answer should
would
be no.
Yeah,
you know, as far as drafting people, no matter what, the answer should be no to that. If someone
it's
doesn't want to go,
slavery, Kyle.
Yeah, it's slavery.
I just think if it's between destruction and a draft, I'll take the draft.
Kyle, it's basically who's going to pick the cotton, dude. That's
yeah, I mean, and also it's been proven that voluntary armies or involuntary armies, conscripted armies are way less effective than voluntary. I mean, that should be obvious, but it's
good. It would be a last resort, but
okay, Kyle.
You could be in a situation where your country,
but that's
facing,
facing
defeat.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
You would just let them get taken over?
No, I would not, but I would not force somebody else to fight. Good ideas do not require force.
That's not true.
But I think it's true. So,
Give me an example where it's not true.
yeah.
All
I mean,
right, like arresting a murderer, that requires force. He's not going to voluntarily walk into jail.
But
You
it's a
have to
good
forcefully
idea
arrest
to.
him.
It's a good idea to lock up a murderer. So
Yeah, and that
that's
requires
a good
force.
idea.
So that good idea does require force. Punishing murderers.
Well,
and
the force
rapists-
is the idea, though.
No, the force is the police apprehending the person and throwing them in a cage. To me, that's a good idea because that person's a threat to society. So that's an example where a good idea requires force. Or defending your country in the face of
Yeah,
attack.
it's not the initiation of force, though.
Well, now you've changed the quote. You didn't say good ideas don't require the initiation of force. You just said good ideas don't require force.
okay.
And that's a
I didn't
false
say that.
quote.
He said that.
Well, it's
But I think that's what he meant.
it's a bad quote. You know, I mean, lots of things require force. You know, chopping down a tree or opening a jar.
Yeah,
Like,
but
there's
I
all
think it's
kinds of
more or
good
less
ideas
like-
that require force.
It's more or less like if somebody came and murdered my brother, you wouldn't have to force me to go, get them. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah, but
So-
you're using force against the killer. You're
Yes.
shooting the killer. So you
but it's in
are
self-defense.
using. It's really not.
Or it's in
even.
defense of another-
It's in vengeance at that point.
Well, that you
it's not
could,
even in defense anymore because
Well,
the
it
act
could
has
be in
already been
vengeance,
committed.
but it could be to keep the act from happening again.
It's
Who
punishment.
knows?
It's
Whatever.
punishment.
But I think the point still remains the same.
You're using force though,
But you're not initiating force. There's a
Right.
difference. Yeah.
but it's still using force.
Right. No, I agree with
you're
you. Like,
reacting
yes.
to force, but technically, yes.
Kyle, we're not
Sure.
arguing for total pacifism, dude.
I know, but that's a contradiction of you guys being anarchists, and you're not pacifists. You're violent anarchists.
No,
Like, to
no.
be an
You're
anarchist-
misunderstanding what anarchism means.
Well, yeah, there's disagreement over what it means,
Right.
but what it
Is there,
should
though?
mean is that you don't use force to impose your will
Well,
on
there's no
others.
monopoly. There's no monopoly of force.
So, well, then you get faction wars.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. If it's not a monopoly, everybody just fights.
No.
Why wouldn't they fight?
Why would they?
Because different groups have different interests, and they fight over land.
But
They
it's like
fight over
saying everyone would
resources,
use
they
heroin
fight
if
over
it was a-
laws.
Oh yeah, you're totally right, Kyle. I remember that time when Burger King bombed McDonald's.
Well, I mean, Burger King and McDonald's both exist under state laws, and they respect the rules. They don't try to destroy each other.
Well,
But it's in
a
everybody's-
better example.
But it's
would
in
be,
it's everybody's better interest to not engage in violence.
a lot of people think it's in their better interest to dominate and take territory.
I think
know.
that's a smaller portion. I think that's mainly
Yeah, it's the government.
mainly
Yeah,
the
that's the
government.
No, it's
I think
not.
most people don't
mean,
want that.
You're talking about you have to think. What are Democrats going to do? What are conservatives going to do? What are socialists going to do? What are nationalists going to do? All these factions are
We're
willing
not,
to use
yes,
violence.
that's why we're not there yet. We're not at the point where we can have anarchy.
Yeah, and I don't think you ever will be because there's always going to be groups that
But it
want
should still
control.
be the ultimate goal. It should be, the end point. That should be what we're all striving for.
I just see it as
Right,
just
we'll get
lawless,
as close as we can.
lawless chaos. I think you need a government over the top to maintain order. I
right.
think that these different
Let's,
political factions would fight.
Okay. We're going kind of getting in circles here. Let's move on to Trump, Puerto Rico.
Oh, we skipped left, right.
We've just been.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck is that? I don't know that.
Yeah. So there was, so specifically, to start it off, there's like the big fucking left-right thing going on now.
In libertarianism or in general?
Yeah, libertarianism and in general. I feel like it's like the in general has definitely started a conversation within libertarianism. So, you've got rabble rousers like Chase Rachel's. He actually said earlier this week, I'm going to pull it up right now. He said that socialism, I believe he said this. I'm going to get that direct quote.
And he's the radical capitalist?
Yeah, he's the
Okay.
guy who started Radical Capitalist.
Okay.
He said,
So he said the worst part about Nazism is the socialism. Discuss.
Which implies that the genocide was not the worst part.
Yeah, exactly. Any normal person is going to hear that, and that's the first thing that they're going to think right away.
Yeah.
Of course, the Jew was the first person to come out with it, but
It was your fucking post, dude.
no, dude, I was fucking triggered, dude.
Yeah.
I can listen.
saw that.
And dude, I'm a totally anti PC person. I'm not PC at all. I listen to fucking Screwdriver, and people are like, "You fucking monster."
Yeah.
But it's basically to me, it's like, oh, it's just music. I'm not trying to get anything philosophically out of it. And if anything, like I look at it like their message, the whole like white supremacist or white power thing is like fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it would be like listening to fucking ICP basically. That's how I like Screwdriver. But, you know, unlike ICP, though, I think Screwdriver, had they not been racist, I think that they would be one of the, you know, like top oi bands of all time, you know, like undisputed. But at the same time, with the Chase Rachel's, like I'm just scrolling through Facebook and I see that. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Because that's the first thing I think. That's the first thing your average person would think. And
but was that not his intention, or is he trying to argue like he was trying to make a different point?
I'm sure the point that he's making is the genocide came from the socialism.
I don't know what point he's trying to make.
I think the point he's making is
dude.
that he wants attention. And he wants a bunch of people to be like, yo, that's fucked up that he wrote that shit. And now everyone's talking about him and it and fighting.
Yeah. I'm sure
kinda
that's
played into his
part of
hands
that
a
point, too.
Yeah.
Did I play into his hands? People are calling for me to debate him. I said I don't debate pieces of human fucking shit. You know, I'll challenge him to a duel, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that raises another question. Like, should you debate people that say that kind of shit?
Yeah, I like to debate anybody,
But I mean, what kind of debate are you really going to have? Like, is genocide worse than socialism?
Well,
like,
that's
that's not a debate.
The
that needs to
leftist
be had.
position. The leftist position is even to debate the far right is too much.
Well,
they shouldn't even be allowed to speak. We don't debate them because their views are so abhorrent that we don't even give them a platform and don't even entertain. We don't even entertain the ideas.
Yeah, and that's
their position.
Sure, that is a problem. But the problem with them is they draw the line super early, right? They're like, if you want to talk about how the gender wage gap is a myth, that's beyond the pale. That can't be up for argument.
Yeah, or global warming,
or or whatever.
Not even up for discussion. Right? It's a settled.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that are not even up for discussion for them.
Right, and I think that's a problem. However, does it mean that there are certain things that like, I'm not even that it's wrong to debate, but just that it's like it's not a good use of my time. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to sit around and debate you whether like killing 6 million Jews and like, what was it, 5 million other people is worse than like socialism.
Wasn't it
like
9 million people from Poland or something?
20. Are you talking about the Holodomor?
I'm talking just
like the Nazis. Didn't they kill like even more people from Poland?
Well, they killed a lot of Jews from Poland. Yeah. Most of the Jews were from Poland.
I mean, they split up. Them and the Soviet Union split up Poland and invaded and conquered both parts.
I mean, I just like I get where you can be like, well, has communism killed more people than and get into these weird things, but it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't bother engaging in the debate.
I didn't even know what he was trying to say with that quote, so when I shared it in my group, I was like, what is he trying to say? And it was a genuine question because I have no idea what his point is.
But you also got to look at this guy's history.
Which group did you share it in? Was it Kyle Wagner is a goddamn communist?
No, it was anarcho-capitalism versus minarchism.
But you've also got to look at like his history and like the people he's kind of been associating with, and they've all been going down that sort of like white nationalist kind of path. So it's like when he posts something like that, you got to connect A and B and be like, it sounds like he's basically saying that killing Jews is okay. Like,
you're still inferring.
I am inferring, and if he wanted to clarify, and
and he might have in the comments. I'm blocked by him. I've been blocked by him for a couple years now.
He doesn't care to clarify. He just likes his own post or loves all of his own posts. And then he just likes people's comments who are just giving him, hand jobs in comments, in comment form. Like really, that's what he does. I don't know. It's basically, I think Tim was on to when the guy's just looking for attention. The guy's referred to his own book as the ANCAP Bible.
Yeah, and it's this thing where it's like suddenly you can be like, say just something completely ridiculous, and then if someone's like points out that it's ridiculous, they're like, well, you refuse to debate me on this. Like, that's not an argument. Not an argument.
Yeah.
Like that whole fucking Stefan Molyneux thing. Not an argument. It's like, yes, I mean, we don't have to sit down and argue every little fucking stupid thing that is being said. There are some things where it's like, if you just say like black people are vermin, like, do we have to debate about this? Like, is this something that needs to be debated?
That's
right?
where I was headed with that.
Yes, but like I said, there's some things that should be debated, like the gender wage gap.
Okay. I don't feel like I have to argue with a Nazi And I don't feel that this guy's a libertarian. I don't feel like Nazis are libertarians. I feel like Nazis are the polar opposite. Nazis are authoritarians.
Sure.
And it seems like this guy is just trying to buddy up with Nazis and the fucking white nationalists, which he is, but by his own words, he's like aligning libertarians with according to him, he's aligning libertarians with like white nationalists, and he's keeping the right together. And taking these people away from socialists. I mean, like this is the shit that he says, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's a wart on the ass of the liberty movement. He's a shit stain on the liberty movement.
I didn't even know who he was. I don't know where you guys find these people, man.
Well, I was just gonna say there's a difference between having a debate and then giving someone the platform to spew their bullshit. And with guys like that, I personally don't like the fact, I don't want to be the association with him. And it's like we're giving him credence that he is a libertarian. He is, for liberty. And I don't like having that association where we feel the need that we have to debate them. It's like, no, he said what he said. And also I was reading this other thing about, what Jared Howe of the Liberty Hangout said. I don't give a shit about genocide unless it's happening to white people. I don't like that I'm forced to fund it if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, Jared Howe. That's the same dude that was kicked out of Being Libertarian.
Yeah.
A group that Chase Rachels is a member of.
Yeah.
Jared Howe was kicked out of there. He was too Nazi for being libertarian.
Yeah.
It's totally sad that we have a group called Being Libertarian that are such fucking Nazis.
I don't think they're all bad.
In
their defense, those
okay,
guys,
okay, maybe they're not all bad, but there are people who I've liked.
If he got kicked
up
out
until
of it,
recent months, I liked Eric July a lot, but then I feel like he's just staying quiet for a lot of the fucking Nazi bullshit.
Yeah, he does stay quiet.
He didn't say anything on Chase Rachel's
his
post.
Job to just step into it all the time.
Well, he associates with.
It's not really his job, but I mean, I feel like people should be pissed off in general,
dude. If Kyle over here started spouting off Nazi bullshit, I would be pissed off if
Zig Kyle.
yeah. If Matt kept inviting Kyle on and he's spewing Nazi bullshit, I would get pissed off at Matt. I'd be like, Matt, what the fuck, man?
I do.
How are you associating with this guy?
Used to be here all the time. Talks about throwing people out of helicopters and hardcore Trump supporter, and he loves Cantwell.
Dude, Big Eth won't come back on, dude.
That's
he won't.
That is kind of
he won't.
It's not he now. I probably don't know if I'd want him on because I'm sure he's still on the Cantwell train.
Dude, I don't care.
I'd like to hear what he's got to say.
I do. He's an awesome guy. I just
Dude, I want Big Eth on. I love Big Eth.
Yeah.
Dude, but when it comes down to it, Big Eth is just a snowflake, dude, because he's he can't handle obviously coming on and just talking about topics. And we're all friends. Nobody's trying to throw him out of a fucking helicopter, even though he's talking about all the helicopter throwing out.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I still don't think that's as bad as just being a straight up Nazi white nationalist. Now, if he's there now, then I wouldn't really be comfortable with him. Maybe one episode just to see what he's doing, what he's up to. But if he was no, actually, I'm all about killing Jews now. I'd be well, you can't come on anymore, dude. And if you said that he could, I don't think I could come on.
He would try to replace you,
Jared, dude. I've got your back. Everybody here's got your back. We've got a steady cast of characters, dude. We don't have to worry about any violence.
No. But I'm just making that point. I'm making the point. That point.
I'd fucking have Christopher Cantwell on. I feel like I would enjoy talking with him. I mean, sadly, he blocked me on Facebook.
You could talk about Screwdriver
years ago because he couldn't handle talking with me. But
I don't think he's on Facebook right now. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because the CIA took him off or whatever. But
CIA
but I mean, Christopher. Cantwell,
I mean, all right, yeah, one time,
Chris Cantwell was too much of a snowflake to handle me.
But dude, if you started hanging out with Chris Cantwell on regular basis, and you guys, I'd be like, dude,
why would
we
I
need
do
to
that?
talk. Exactly,
Yeah,
but that's kind of is that not what Eric July is kind of doing?
Maybe.
I don't know enough about I followed Liberty Hangout for a while, and then the Trump shit started. I was they seem to be super pro Trump. This is kind of weird, but maybe I'm missing something on Trump. So I kept subscribing to this shit, but it just kept being these stupid pieces about winning again and some stupid thing. And then they were like getting all about the border and
They're more
illegal immigration and shit.
I feel like they're just more anti-social justice warrior at this point. That's all they are, and they have a lot of pro-Trump shit that they say that we love triggering snowflakes.
They're
so we're gonna
anti-left.
write chalk on the ground at college campuses. You know, it's stupid.
They're anti-left, but then they're like coddling.
Yeah.
Then they're like going deep dive into the right, which is like, what's the difference? It's just different flavors of the same shit.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating to watch people's mental shift from ANCAP to alt-right, nationalism, white nationalism, fascism. I mean, it's crazy to me to see it on Facebook and see the people, even like CCR, who you're like, whoa, like you're really shifting.
Dude, don't call him CCR, dude. Creedence Clearwater Revival did not want to be associated.
I apologize.
That's what.
All right,
Took me a little bit. I was like,
Rachel's.
Wait, what did CCR, dude? What did CCR do?
My bad. Chase Rachel's.
Yeah.
Whereas myself, I went ANCAP to classical liberal or minarchist and
to a faggot. Yeah. Sorry.
And I mean, already with
Third.
that embrace of government and law and order, you guys already it's like abrasive with me. Which is fine, it actually makes for some nice fireworks, but
yeah,
it's fine.
Exactly,
but I'm definitely not far right. Like, I don't consider myself, I'm classical liberal. Like, I see that as very distinctive from fascism and the authoritarian nationalism.
But you should obey other laws.
Okay. My question for everybody here: would anybody here consider themselves right wing?
No.
No,
There was some hesitation. There was some hesitation from Pure Kyle. But,
with my mental conception of politics, we used to be on the left. A lot of people don't know that, but we're from the French Assembly. The classical liberals sat on the left, and the left got taken over by socialists. So now you have the conservative sort of nationalists. You have some pretty authoritarian law and order kind of stuff on the right. Hitler was on the far right, and then you have Stalin on the far left, and then you have Bernie Sanders on the left. So, like, where do we fit? And that's where initially Hayek wrote an article about why I'm not a conservative, and he made it into a triangle. He was like, look, classical liberalism still exists. This left-right spectrum is not sufficient anymore to accommodate us, and so he was like, it's a triangle. And then I mentally pushed the two bottom the socialists and the nationalists together and sort of said, okay, well, these kind of authoritarian strains these are left and right are two strains of authoritarianism.
Right.
And we're, as a minarchist, I'm like, well, I'm the classical liberal, the other side of the spectrum. So it's like a small government to big government spectrum in my mind. And it really helped me to reject anarchy to get to that point. Because when I had ANCAP, I was just totally confused. I couldn't conceptualize small government, like, it didn't fit anywhere. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like, it's ANCAP or it's socialism.
But wouldn't small government just be like somewhere on that line?
I think small government is the end of the line. And I think once you remove the laws, once you remove all laws, abolish all laws, you lose all social order along with that. You lose property rights laws, property laws, you lose laws against murder, you lose laws against theft. It's just it's just nothing. It's just people and land and tribal fighting over those resources. So that's how my mental conception stops at minarchism. I'm like, whoa, we need some law. We need laws against murder. We need laws against theft.
What do you think of the Nolan
Nolan chart? Yeah, again, if I were to take the Nolan chart and redraw it, I would think of it the diamond version, not the square version, oriented like a diamond with the libertarian piece being at the top. Lift that quadrant completely up, and then draw a line down to the bottom 3 sections. And those 3 sections are sort of like authoritarian, and then we're at the other end of the spectrum as far as liberalism, liberty, and limited government. So we lean toward more personal freedom in all matters, but there's a hard stop. There has to be a hard stop where you're like, this is not allowed. Rape is just, that crosses the line, and we can't keep going and say that's allowed.
But the hard stop of small government is very subjective. Small government to me is different than small government to some conservative who thinks, oh yeah, keeping up the drug war and the war on terror is still part of my small government.
And public education would be another one they would include, but no, that's not. Minarchism is government protects life and property from violent and fraudulent assault. it doesn't even typically include roads. I include roads just because I can't conceptualize mentally how privatized roads are going to work. So I take Bastiat's classical liberalism, which is, it's public safety and then the maintenance of public property. So forests and rivers and roads would all be included. But a lot of minarchists would object to that. They would be like, that's too far. Government property is too far. It shouldn't own anything.
That's interesting.
I don't know. I mean,
but see, I would like to be having this debate when we get to that point.
Well, you got to have it now. I mean, what you're spreading and what you're what you're explaining to other people matters right now. I'm trying to convince you guys to become minarchists and everybody that's listening to become minarchists.
But I don't know that. Well, the only reason that you want us to do that is because you want us to engage in the political process.
Yeah, I mean, it's a means to I have an end goal in mind, which is classical liberals like Ron Paul winning elections. So I need ANCAPs to become minarchists and then to create more minarchists to increase the size of our party until we start to win. So you have to grow your team, your group, until you outnumber the other groups. And then you change the laws, and the progressives aren't going to be happy about it. They wouldn't be happy if we got rid of public schools or public education. But once you're in the driver's seat, then you control the law. So that's how we actually change society to the way we want it to be.
You could be like an Arvin Vora type, who's an anarchist and also engaging in the political process.
Well, I mean, I think Arvin.
Although you could argue that some of his tactics are alienating people.
Yeah, some of the things he said, where he.
But even like Ron Paul, I mean, we could argue about this, but I think Ron Paul is a closet anarchist. Yeah. But he's willing to sort of put aside that, ultimate end goal, like Tim was saying, like that's his ultimate goal, but he realizes, well, first we got to get to minarchy, and then we can worry about that.
In his books, he does articulate the role of government. He does say that when someone commits violence against another person or their property, government has a role to stop them. So
sure,
it literally, like in Liberty Defined,
but
he takes minarchist positions.
But he's not arguing like, well, we can't have anarchy. Like, he never says that.
Yeah, but to me, he doesn't go far enough. To me, he doesn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I don't think he agrees with that.
I would like him and Julie Borowski to just say, look, anarchy is not feasible. It's not right. It's not going to work.
Derek
we need
Brosh
government.
just interviewed him like last week or whatever, and actually asked him if he was an anarchist or not. And he said that he doesn't like the word, but he likes the word voluntarist or whatever.
Yeah, but again, if something's voluntary, he's fine with it. But then, Ron Paul is not going to stand aside if somebody commits a violent crime. Like, that's where his.
But that's not what. That's not anarchy.
He also says taxation is theft.
That also drives me nuts when he says that.
Same thing with Sarwalk. Sarwalk said that too.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe anarchist is the thing that's getting you bogged down. We're talking about voluntarism. We're talking about all exchanges, all interactions should be voluntary.
Right, but if they're not, then you guys become authoritarian.
No. Defending self-defense is not authoritarian.
But it's not just self-defense. It's punishment. It's arrest.
Well, no, I don't necessarily agree with the punishment either. I don't necessarily agree that retribution is the correct thing. Restitution, maybe. If someone steals your property, you should be able to retrieve that property back from them. However, but I'm not saying like if you kill somebody, then you therefore deserve to be killed. That's not. That's biblical eye for an eye shit.
No, I'm not saying that.
I think the best way to handle that would be ostracism.
But I disagree with that. But like with self-defense, like let's say that if my self-defense fails and I'm dead, then I'm not in any position to further defend myself or to get vengeance on the person or to punish the person. So that's where you have to actually aggressively pursue the perpetrator, arrest them, and put them in jail.
Sure.
I don't just want to ostracize them. I want them to be punished for the crime that they committed and have to sit in a cage where they're separated from society and can't hurt anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, there is the... Yeah, I mean, but that's not necessarily like retribution. That's more of like this person. It's more of that's more self-defense. Like putting a person in a place where they can't hurt more people is an act of defending that.
But it's not self-defense if I'm dead and someone else does it.
Well, they're defending themselves from a potential attack by this person or their community. You're allowed to defend third parties. Like that's part of.
So I'm already dead. And then...
I mean, you died. Okay, what is a cop going to do if someone comes in through this door, like, Jill's not going to be able to take them down. What if they come down here and kill you?
Yeah. Well, my
Or I
point
don't know,
is,
maybe Jill
my
can.
point
I
is,
don't know. Have you been training her up on the?
my point is, self-defense is very weak and it's inadequate. And then once
Right,
the
but
person,
I'm telling you that police defense is not any more adequate.
I think it is. The police are certainly a lot stronger than I am. I mean, they have.
So if a guy breaks into your house, would you rather have a gun or a police officer?
Just because of location, a gun, but because the police is 10 minutes away, whereas the gun is right under my bed, so I
Right.
can just
Well, that's
shoot the
what I'm
guy.
saying, yeah.
So convenience-wise, the
So what-
gun. But let's say it's 15 guys that break into my house, they're going to overpower me. I'm going to need, some greater force than 15 men.
Yeah, but you have
is gonna
private
to-
defense. You have private. We've had this argument a million times.
Right.
Yeah.
You
But
have the
you never
private
take it
security
far
force.
enough. You never say, well,
all I'm
what
s-
happens if there's a larger and larger force of aggressors? You never say, what if there's 1,000 aggressors? What if there's 1,000,000 aggressors? You always draw the line at like a home
Private
invasion.
armies. I mean, everything can be privatized. Is all that I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean,
all the
but-
functions of government, but the difference is they're not funded by taxation.
So what happens
they're
when
not-
like Microsoft's private army starts like abusing people? What happens when
Does
a,
Microsoft
How?
exist?
But how and why would they abuse people in the first place?
I
how
just-
could
I
a
don't know all the
corporation
different-
How do they
examples,
how do they
but-
amass? Like the government doesn't have to earn its keep. The government can just forcefully take money, so it never has to respond to the market. It responds in the sense of like it, elects different people to man the machinery, but the machinery stays the same.
well, let's
You
just
know?
go
So-
with
but
the-
with a company like Microsoft, they can't just like go around and just start like robbing all the banks because then the economy collapses. Like that's not how it works.
Let's take
all
the
they can
evil
do is
corp.
offer
There's
you a
economic-
product. That's it.
there's
That's really
economic-
all they can do.
What's that?
All they can do is offer you a product.
Right.
That's it. What else can they possibly do?
Well, with
to
the
you?
private army, I mean, let's take the evil corporation example and say that you have a rogue corporation or an evil corporation and say they're destroying competitors, they're firebombing people, they're destroying warehouses, destroying products. They're actually
How are they
attacking people with private force. Why do you think that's such an implausible scenario that some rich aggressor or rich group of aggressors would exist?
So then what do? They go around and they just establish new government? Like
Well, I don't know, but like you have to understand, like private interests aren't like holier than thou. There are definitely people like that would be
But they
fully
run your
willing to
government now.
assassinate people.
Yeah.
There'd be like an assassination market. There'd all kinds of things, like gangs. Criminal gangs are willing to use violence to advance their own economic interest.
But the only
Sure.
reason that gangs are able to exist is because they can get the additional profit off of the drug war.
No, I mean you have to understand. Like, why wouldn't there be like criminal gangs in Kapistan? Like
there
would
could be
still
criminal gangs, but
Yeah,
they'd be kept in check by the various competing private defense.
I think that's
agencies.
a bad assumption. And it's like,
I mean,
you're
why?
assuming that the private good guys would beat the private bad guys, but it's like,
You're assuming that monopolies are rendering better results than we would have
Yeah.
with freedom.
well, I think
You're
I do
assuming.
think that having the monopoly on force, the government has the force. It has adequate force to suppress the evil corporation, any evil corporation or any aggressive group. It has the force to come over the top and quash them.
Yes, and I believe that monopolies never render the best and mostly not even tolerable results.
Yeah, but it's better to have a monopoly and have order than to have all these different groups all using violence for their own gain and fighting amongst each other. That's a civil war condition, and that's what we don't want. We don't want to have all these different factions fighting.
I don't believe that you would have all that violence.
Why not?
And
Because why do you have government now? It's like suddenly magically a bunch of people took control and were like, look, we didn't know it's best. Everyone just calm down. Give us all your money. We're going to build an army that will keep you down, blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's the people want it. I mean, it has
Right,
public
so if the
support.
people want that, then the people,
They
once
also want
we
free
get to the
healthcare.
point of anarchy, the people will want anarchy. I mean, it's only going to happen. Look, it's not something like we've said a million times. It's not you push the anarchy button and, tomorrow and you have like your Antifas and your alt-rights and your all these fucking idiots that are doing these non-libertarian things. No, we have to get to a point where like most people have an understanding of the non-aggression principle, and maybe that is an idealistic thing that we'll never get
it's
to. I'm willing
utopian.
to concede that. However, it's a goal. It's a a spot on the horizon that I think we need to move towards. And
So
maybe that's getting involved in the political process and changing some of the shitty laws. I'm not opposed to that.
Do you think there would be no more statist factions trying to organize governments and
Oh, there's
and
sure there
resist?
would be, but I think they'd be outnumbered, and that's the only way it's ever going to happen anyway. So the
ANCAPs rule
The
non-ANCAPs.
ANCAPs.
The
Well,
statists.
rolling is wrong. Rolling is wrong. Most people decide that they want to live in Ancapistan. Most people decide this. They dismantle. The government's been dismantled. Everything's been privatized. And most people decide, like, we don't want to go back to the old ways of government because we tried that whole minarchist thing and it worked for a little bit, but then it just started growing again and turning into the police state, surveillance state that we had before. So we just decided we were just going to cut the whole thing out. That's how I see it going.
This is all very,
probably
very
not.
realistic and definitely going to happen one of these days.
I mean, I think it's
All right,
just
we
as
got- we
realistic
got-
as minarchy.
I disagree. We got sidetracked in anarchists versus
Yeah, I want to hear this
minarchists again.
Catalonia thing.
Yeah, I do. I definitely want to talk about Catalonia.
Yeah, let's just we can. Do
What do
we
you
want
wanna
to talk
do?
about Puerto Rico? Does anyone have anything to say? I mean, it's tragic. It's terrible. Trump is fucking up. Or
To
is he?
his
I don't
credit,
know.
to his
Is he?
credit, he did repeal that shipping
Oh
Jones
ban.
yeah,
Act.
he did do that.
All right,
yeah.
so let's give the guy credit for,
Yeah, but
some,
for
for
temporarily.
something that he
Did
did.
you all hear
Temporarily.
about? Hold on, this is not on the board. But speaking of Trump, and did you guys hear about how he has said that he wants to get rid of laws that prevent buying insurance across state lines, like the whole thing that Rand Paul has
Yeah.
been pushing. He said that he wants to do that.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Trump.
It's almost like, it's not always black and white. Somebody might be pretty terrible, but occasionally get it right.
Like
And
Obama.
even Obama was that
Yeah.
way. Obama did some things where we were like, hey, right on. And then conservatives would have to condemn him just because it was Obama. But I think if objectively you're looking at it and being a fair judge, sometimes they're in the right and sometimes they're in the wrong. And good for Trump for making some free trade decisions
Mhm.
lately. So, Puerto Rico's been pretty devastated. Peter
Yeah.
Schiff's business interest, I have no idea if he had I think he had an office down there.
He lives there full time.
Yeah.
So Peter Schiff.
Yeah. And of course they want to be a state because they need a bailout. They're $72 billion in debt or something like that. And I think they stopped making payments on the debt. That's the last I heard. So, Puerto
In
Rico.
debt to the
Uh,
U.S. or
Whoever holds their bonds, whoever holds their public bonds.
Right,
So
right.
it could be their own citizens. I'm sure it's a lot of big banks, Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan probably own Puerto Rican debt. So it's they're a political football, and now they have in addition to the debt crisis, now they have natural disaster on their hands at the worst possible time when they already didn't have any money. So.
yeah.
And I think we're floating them. I thought I heard that the Fed was supporting them through backdoor channels or something. That's kind of conspiracy theory stuff, but the cash is coming from somewhere to keep the government running.
Right.
But yeah, what a crazy situation. We have to keep our eye on Puerto Rico. It's interesting.
And tell me about this Catalonia secession.
I don't. Was the vote today?
It was today.
The vote was today. Catalonia wants to secede, or a lot of people in Catalonia want to secede from Spain. The Spanish government doesn't want it, so they've been taking actions to suppress the vote. It's very interesting, and I think Catalonia has something like 7 million people. I could be completely wrong on that, but
Yeah, I don't know the exact population, but I know it's been its own sovereign kingdom. I mean, going back as far as like 900, AD. I mean, and if I think in the 1700s, the Spanish Empire, abolished all Catalonian institutions, and people want, they feel betrayed by the government. Now, see, a lot of the reasoning that I've seen from people who want to, they want to be their own country is because they hold a lot of socialist views. They want, they want like a socialist state. So especially when you see like, I know Washington Post had this one video, and all they did was talk to the college campus, go on the college campuses and talk to students, and that's all they all wanted. There's Antifa groups there they were interviewing, and they all just wanted, like, it was weird hearing them how much they hated the state, but yet they were advocating like, we want social, we want this and that and just like, well, you're trying to get rid of the state, yet you're trying to form your own state. It's funny seeing how they want to have this referendum and they want to succeed from Spain, but the response from Spain has been so, like, they sent all their police forces there, militarized police forces. You see them all out there, and I thought I did hear a stat that they sent more police than there were in actual Catalonia, than there were, like, police in Catalonia themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're in a monetary union, which was a big deal in Europe. They have the EU, and then they have a monetary union, and they don't have a full political union. The United States, our states have granted a lot of their sovereignty up to the federal level, and then the money system is at that level, and the states are below or beneath the federal government, and they kind of tried to do the same thing in Europe, but the EU has never been as powerful as our federal government, and their countries are still very much sovereign countries. They're not where states are. So you've seen a lot of tension and conflict caused by that between, like England, for example. Like, they're like, we don't want the kind of stuff you're trying to push on us from the top level, and it's been very I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Like, it's been a lot of disunity.
Divisive.
It's been very divisive. Yeah, that's a good word. So it's just interesting to see them struggle with the problems of having a monetary union, what we would consider to be a weak federal government. If you want to call the EU a federal government, it's similar, and very powerful individual nations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another one. I watched that situation, and I follow a site called or a guy named Mish Shedlock. He's a libertarian, Austrian-oriented guy. His website's Mish Talk, and he's like an investment guy. But he, for whatever reason, loves to talk about EU politics, and he talks about everything. But like, I follow him for he's my go-to for EU election news and monetary stuff and all that. He's really interesting.
Cool.
He's a great guy.
Have to check him out. All right. I think that's all we got, man.
Yeah, I think
It's a good one.
We just blew our Liberty load all over your face. So, we have a website at thedailyliberator.com, and if you have something to say Liberty related, we'd like to. We provided a podium for which you to say it. So we're always accepting article submissions over there. And we also have T-shirts at libertariancountry.com. We also have Punk Rock Libertarians patches. And if you type in the code PRL, you will receive a 10% discount if you type in the code PRL or the code PRL Podcast. And until next time, live free
Or die.